Welcome to another episode of the Apex Perspective Podcast. Today, I have the absolute pleasure to interview Fabian Paul Cruz, who is the founder of CITO Tax Resolution. Fabian, can I get started with your background story and how it led to your current company and what you do these days?
Sure. As far as my entrepreneur journey, it started when I was in high school because I come from a very blue collar family. So if I wanted clothes for the school year, I had to go work. So a lot of the times I would mow lawns, and if the lawns were big enough, then I'd get my buddies involved. And then, I went to college and then got into the pharmaceutical sales industry. And a number of years ago, right before COVID, I decided to start, excuse me, a beef jerky company. And and a friend of mine is a very successful entrepreneur and had Target as a client of his. And Target likes to buy from people and do business with people they already know. And so he had a number of contacts like in the CPG space, packaging space, and we had a mutual friend who's a formerly trained chef. So we're all sitting around at the table talking about launching the company. And what I realized at that moment is you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be able to get all the right people at the table. And so I went out, found a national co-packer,
Hmm.
um, and they were very archaic in their business. And now, are you still able to hear me okay? I just want to check in.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
awesome. Awesome. And so and so they did everything like paper and pen, which I was really surprised because I thought there was an online dashboard where I could go and see what was going on. They didn't have anything like that. And this is really important because to convert a kitchen recipe to an industrial recipe, they were charging $20,000 per recipe. And we had three that we were wanting to initially launch. And so the
Hmm.
way I approached this was I told them, listen, we already have a relationship with Target, you know, so this isn't a gamble. And so with that, they waived the $60,000 and they took on the cost. Now, this is why this is important was because when COVID hit, the our account manager left the company. And after that, they could, and we had already had sample batches come through, send them out to friends, family, and handful of investors, and they
Hmm.
absolutely loved them. Well, when this account manager left, they couldn't find our recipes or other people's recipes. And in this, it took months to get to this the industrial recipe. Well, so that cut, and then with COVID, the price of meat going through the roof and everything, that fizzled out really quick. And unfortunately, it was a tough lesson, but there was a lot of good lessons that I learned in that. And then still in the pharmaceutical industry, and then as far as where I'm at now,
Hmm.
I started CITO Tax Resolution. Now we're a firm where we help people, whether they're in trouble with the IRS or their state tax authorities, we step in and we negotiate on their behalf. Now,
Hmm.
the genesis of this is I received a phone call from my parents, and my mom was just upset. She was crying, and she had received a letter from the IRS that they owed a significant amount of money. Now, take it, my parents are blue collar.
Hmm.
This tax debt was more than they had ever made as a couple. And so we
Wow.
went out, yeah, and the thing is, this wasn't even due to any fault of their own. The person who was
Hmm.
preparing their taxes gave them bad tax strategy advice that didn't make sense at all.
Hmm.
And that's what resulted in their debt. And so we went out, we as a family, we went out, we found a tax resolution company to help them out. Well, the thing is, it was as frustrating working with this and stressful as working with this tax resolution company as it was dealing with the IRS. And
Hmm.
here's why. Because every time a letter would come in, we had a question about it, we would call this tax resolution company and we would deal with someone new every time. There was no call continuum, meaning we had to explain our entire situation over. They would tell us, they have to research it and get back to us. And if we're lucky, it was a week later. And and when you're dealing with unknowns, that's really stressful.
It's a very stressful situation.
Yeah, and during this whole time, my mom is saying, I just want my life back from the
Mm-hmm.
IRS. And that's actually inspired our tagline is you
Mm-hmm.
deserve your life back. So,
Mm,
being in corporate America, um, I've been able to thrive at some companies and not some other companies. And the companies I was able to thrive in had the best systems. The companies I
mm,
struggled the most in, my toughest client was my own company.
okay.
And and so when I looked at the tax resolution industry and what my parents went through, and they were a highly rated company, I was like, I can do it better.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out, you know, got certified to do tax resolution. I joined a mastermind group that we meet 3 times a month. And then I built out a team, you know, because you can only do so much with yourself. When you start building a team out, then you can really leverage and increase your bandwidth. And so I went out and started this company,
Mm-hmm.
and into and I have been nothing but surprised on how fast our growth has been.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
And
that's my genesis. Yeah.
I love it. And I was really curious about what's a common situation you see from new clients coming to you about their experience with other tax resolution companies.
What's been their experience? Is,
What's
is that
a
what you're asking?
yeah, what's a common experience you typically have when they come to you?
Um, Pretty much what I discussed with my parents. You know,
Mm-hmm.
no call continuum, no communication. They had to call in to get updates. And a lot of times, people who deal with tax resolution with the IRS or who deal with IRS issues end up back in the same boat about 5 years later. And so, yeah, it's a sad statistic. And we can talk later about how we're helping those people to not getting
Right.
back in the crosshairs of the IRS. But usually that's what it is. It's lack of communication, lack of follow-up, a lot of being in the unknown.
And how
And then
does
getting
CITO Tax,
charged. Yeah.
apologies, go ahead. You were finishing
And then
something?
and then just and then getting hit with all these hidden fees, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Yeah,
So how does CITO Tax Resolution operate as a company in comparison to other tax resolution approaches?
sure. Great question because for me, taking that experience from corporate America, what I did when I started this company, I used all that experience. So I started out with building systems out. And
Mm-hmm.
so with that, if what makes us really different in the CITO for CITO tax resolution, it's Latin for Swift. The reason being is we lean hard on technology. So we make
Mm-hmm.
the process of working with us as smooth and seamless as possible. And
Mm-hmm.
so with that, yeah, so with that, you know, with our software, there's portals, where people can upload all their documents, we can communicate with them. And then also what we do is this is our only focus is tax resolution. A lot of these other companies, some of the people who come to me, they've worked with tax preparation companies who also do bookkeeping, tax preparation, and then they happen to do, tax resolution. And I always explain that as like, if you have a common cold or cough or whatever, you go see your general family practitioner. If
Mm-hmm.
you have heart issues, you want to go see your cardiovascular your cardiologist. And that's like what
Specialized.
right. And that's who we are. We are specialized. This is all we do. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's really what separates us.
And I'd love to learn more about, like you were mentioning before, those individuals who've had issues with the IRS before, and then 5 years later have the exact same issue. Can you explain why that occurs and how you would take an approach to solve this issue?
Sure. So let me give you an example of my favorite client
Okay.
because this person, because a lot of times people think, oh, if you're in trouble with IRS, it's because you're, trying to game the system.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case. It's everyday taxpayers, Americans, where something out of their control, some external factor just got away from them. And my favorite client is a farmer who he sold off part of his farm to pay for his wife's cancer treatments. Unfortunately, she succumbed to cancer, but he was hit with a $300,000 tax bill. And, you know, and with that, even though he had plenty of money in the bank where he could write that check, we were able to go in and show the IRS, and he owned three companies: a farming, a trucking company, and a harvesting company. So we were
Mm-hmm.
able to go in and show the IRS all this money is earmarked for his business.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to dive into his finances and show him he's actually operating at about a loss. We were helping him, so we were able to get him off. Now, is our connection still good?
Yes, a brief interruption, but now it's back.
Okay, okay,
Go ahead.
great. And so the thing is, when we started to take a look and really dive in, we found all three of his businesses, he operated as a sole proprietor,
Mm-hmm.
meaning he's getting taxed at the highest rate possible. He had no plan whatsoever in place to pass his to pass his assets on to his children. And
Mm-hmm.
his children are all grown. So what we did was we went and we set up all three of those businesses as LLCs, and then we set him up an S corporation, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that is owned by Revocable Living Trust with his children named on the trust. So with
Mm-hmm.
that, whenever he passes away, he doesn't have to deal with his kids don't have to deal with probate.
Mm-hmm.
They just step in and take over his assets. But the cool thing about the way we set up his estate was it minimizes his taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And because what had happened was I'd say about 5 years earlier, he had also got hit with another tax issue. And because he was at the highest rate, because he was operating as a sole P.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love his story. I mean, I hate that his wife passed away, but I love the story again because it just shows, it's not people trying to game the system, and it's and there's ways to go out there to get everything set up properly in order to minimize the taxes and also set up for generational wealth.
I mean, let's talk about that because as an individual specialized in tax solutions, a question I had for you is you mentioned there were a lot of hidden fees and ways businesses are set up improperly during this conversation. What is a
Mhm.
common misconception with the operations of someone's business where they could be losing out on a lot of money due to an improper setup of like a company or their specific business? Because this is something that I'm assuming happens more often than not.
Yeah. So let me give you an example. I deal with a lot of real estate agents, and what'll happen is they'll set up an LLC, but they don't ever put their business in the LLC. And so it's like, okay, well, why are you using an LLC? And then let's say if they do put their business in the LLC, they think that's it's completely done.
Hmm.
And the thing is, an LLC is a limited liability corporation,
Right.
or company, however you want to say it. And it's to limit their exposure. And
Hmm.
so there's still another step. So a lot of like the real estate agents I've been dealing with, they're top earning real estate agents making three, four, even one $500,000.
Hmm.
And then at that point we take the same approach. It's like use an S corporation and then pay yourself out of the S corporation. That's going to minimize the amount of taxes you're paying. And also it just creates a whole nother level of protection. And so,
Hmm.
so that's one of the things I see a lot of people are setting up entities either the improper way, or they're setting them up and they're not even putting their businesses into them. And then
Hmm.
and then they're commingling their funds, meaning they're using their personal checking account as a business checking account. And with that, there's no corporate veil there.
Hmm.
And so one of the things we tell them is with that LLC, you need a specific checking account, a business checking account just for that LLC.
Hmm. So now,
Yeah.
now, Fabian, most of our viewers are actually founders and executives themselves. A lot of them are business owners and operators. A question I had for you is there a specific kind of advice that's particularly applicable to this group of people about how they should navigate their taxes or tax solutions to make sure that it's actually set up in a way that's most successful for their operations?
So that's a difficult question to answer because not
Mhm.
not everyone's going to be the same.
Right.
Like a lot of the executives, as W-2 employees, there's only so much they can do. As business owners, you can really get creative. But then again, going back to your W-2 employees, if they start investing in syndications or in real estate, that's essentially a business in of
Hmm.
itself. Um, so
Makes
really
sense. It's
that's a hard
dependent on the
question.
person. Absolutely depend on
Yeah,
the person. So let's talk about the average business owner because there are certainly a lot more business owners on the viewer side here. Is there a general approach that you would or a general advice you would give to them to navigate choosing the right approach for their taxes?
sure. I would say the first thing is let's look at as far as how you're making money.
Yeah.
Are you a solopreneur?
Hmm.
Um, or do you have a business? Meaning, do you have people that work for you? Now, are they actual employees or are they independent contractors? And the
Hmm.
reason being is there's so many things that go into that if they're actual employees. So the first thing is we need to do is we need to look to see how you're making your money. And
Hmm.
then from there, we need to take a look to see, um, are you taking money off the table? Meaning, are you investing in other things like a solo 401k, a self-directed IRA? Are you utilizing an HSA, health savings account? Because those are all vehicles that have been created by the government to accelerate your wealth.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you, most of the business owners I deal with, they're putting 100% of everything back into their business, which is not the best thing to do,
Hmm.
because horses die, so you want to
Yeah.
have a lot of horses in your stable. So that's really what I advise is let's look to see how you're making your money. Are you taking money off the table? And then what are your long-term plans?
Hmm.
You know, and so
And I
I
go ahead.
I was gonna say I know that's very vague, but I mean one of the things I to get comfortable in this.
Small interruption. There's a small interruption there, but anyways, I just want to say that I think what you're
Yeah.
doing here is incredible, and there's much too many people who I've actually personally heard have struggled with this issue of getting hit with fines left and right without knowledge that they should be there in the first place. And I think there's a lack of clarity that I think you're coming here to solve, and I really love that approach. Now, I want to shift the conversation to more about you, Fabian. And the question I had for you is there something about your life or about you that you wish more individuals knew about more about?
Oh, interesting. I would say my personal mission is to change the narrative. Um, and why I want people to know about this is, and this is for everyone, regardless of what their ethnicity is. But whenever you look as far as income and also net worth, the two groups are at the very bottom is the Latino community and the Black community. And a lot of it is we don't have access to the information as far as like what we discussed just now.
Hmm.
Um, and but there's a lot of families, of Caucasian families aren't exposed to it either. And that's really what my mission is to help change the narrative for everybody's family if they want it. And I would say that's the thing I would like for people to know. I'm here to be a resource because I'm doing the same exact thing for my family. I grew up very blue collar where, there was more month left at the end of every paycheck. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'd like to now learn more about who the 20-year-old version of you was, and are you similar to him today?
To the what?
20-year-old version of you.
Oh,
Who's
no.
20-year-old Fabian?
20-year-old Fabian was insecure and immature. And
Okay.
that's who 20-year-old Fabian was. I had a very scarcity mindset.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I didn't know if I was coming or going. Fortunately, over the years, being married to my wife, um, becoming a father, and then also going for it.
Hmm.
I've been able to realize there's more abundance out there than there is scarcity.
Hmm.
If there's so much opportunity out there. And then also too, I always say with my wife is God knew what I needed when I didn't even know what I wanted.
Wow.
And yeah, and just being married to her has made me a better man. And then having children it's really made me realize I've got to be thinking about more than just the man in the mirror. Yeah.
Absolutely. And an additional question I had for you is, entrepreneurship is not really meant for everyone. I believe that there's a certain person that is designed for it, but I want to get your opinion on that. If you would want to challenge it, perhaps maybe. But do you think everyone is made to be an entrepreneur, or is it meant for very specific people?
So, um, yes and no. So you could be an entrepreneur and be a W-2 employee and own a bunch of rentals.
Hmm.
You know, um, now if you wanted to just, go for it and just rely on your business, and that's your only source of income, what you kill is what you eat. That's not for everybody at all. I have come across people who have had friends who their IQs were through the roof. They went to college on full academic scholarships and they crashed and burned miserably as entrepreneurs. I've had friends who failed out of college or didn't go to college and they're making so much money.
Hmm.
And for me, what I noticed was those who really went for it made it. And the
Hmm.
ones who tried to play it safe, they they went back to being in corporate America, which is okay because we need people in corporate America.
Absolutely. And you brought up a really important point that I wanted to actually bring up is intellect is not really the sole indicator of success. I think the main indicator of success is an individual who first has to be fearless, and then number two has to have unwavering conviction in what they do. Because unwavering
Mhm.
conviction means even when you're going through the most difficult parts of your business or your career or whatever that be, you'll go through it and then you'll come out the other side successful. So I wanted to ask you, do you think that when we talk about the most successful entrepreneurs out there, I mean, these individuals, when they started their companies, the these were decisions that are not small. And for that reason, I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you, what compelled you to really start and go forward with it?
What compelled me
Yes, to start.
to start, the so there's a great series out with John Hamm on Apple TV right now.
Hmm.
I forget the name of it, but if you go to Apple TV, you'll see that guy. He just sticks out even in a photo, and he plays I think a hedge fund manager, and he gets fired by the his boss, which is the owner of the company, and he walks back into the office like a few weeks later and say, "Hey, you fired me unjust. I want my book of business back." This and that. And his boss, again, the owner of the company, tells him, if you don't own it, it's not yours. If you can't walk away with it, it's not yours. And so as much as I love corporate America, I am not naive to believe it's not mine.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so for me, I wanted to build something that was mine and that I could actually put all my talent into in all everything all the skills and experience I've garnered. Because in corporate America, you have to operate in this very narrow lane. As an entrepreneur, that there's no lane. You can bring all of you into it.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to briefly shift the conversation to more about fitness and health, and then we'll go ahead
Oh
and
yes.
conclude the podcast with your next year plans, with whatever you want to plug, and with CITO Tax Solution as well. So, the one perspective I want to share on today's podcast regarding fitness and health is all about challenging the requirements. As a founder, which many of you are who's viewing the episode, it's all about challenging the requirements to solve the problem that you're solving. So, if we look at that, apply that exact same mindset towards health and fitness, it's not all about the traditional method of going to the gym and exercising and sweating buckets and being extremely restrictive. It's about being able to question what is it that's actually required to make the transformation and get exactly what you want. Now, if you look at the main driver behind a successful fitness transformation, it has nothing to do with the time you spend going to the gym, all the exercising you're doing, and all the restrictive approaches you try. It's actually your capacity to successfully achieve a negative energy balance. Now, what is a negative energy balance? It's when you're burning more calories than you're consuming on a daily basis. Now, why I say this, which is something I have to acknowledge, is most individuals won't understand what a negative energy balance is or what calories in, calories out means. But the point
Mhm.
of me mentioning this is that understanding this concept, this principle, it means that since this is the only requirement, any avenue that leads to you fulfilling this one requirement is valid. So you can do this by going to the gym, you can do this by sweating buckets, or you can do this by looking at a different approach. And my opinion is that the most successful approach, especially for entrepreneurs, is a location independent approach. Something you can do anytime, anywhere, and something you can do while you're on a phone call, even. If you can do this, there's essentially zero barriers to making your own physical transformation. And to give you one example and of what I leverage to lose over
Mhm.
70 pounds and keep it off to date,
It's amazing.
is leveraging step count. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, leveraging step count because this is something you can do on your phone call. You can do this in a hotel room. You can do this in the airport. You can do this anywhere there is in the world. But the primary principle is to challenge the requirements and come with an effective solution to adhere to those requirements. So when we talk about any problem solving as an entrepreneur, it's all about challenging the requirements. And if that same principle applied to health fitness, you'll understand that the common requirements are typically false, which you're led to believe is primarily the gym and being extremely restrictive. And by the way, Fabian has had a very interesting experience with his own fitness and health journey. So I wanted to get a little bit more about your story today and to get your opinion on what I was saying just now.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I mean, science even backs that up. Calories in, calories out. If you can put your body in that deficit, and you don't have to go. And now I'm a former collegiate student
Yeah,
athlete. I was used to if I didn't crawl away from a workout, then I didn't have a workout. And now that I'm older, I just can't work out like that. But the thing is, the body doesn't really even need that kind of a workout.
right.
um you can get as much, you like you did, you monitored your steps
Mhm.
daily, and that's been found to burn fat faster than spending hours in the gym. And
Right.
so and I'm sure you have complete mobility of all your joints.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And the major point I want to make is that even if you do walk those 10,000 steps, that's not going to directly lead to a successful transformation. What is also required is paired with the right nutritional strategy. But the main thing is applying the mindset of a founder to health and fitness is what I believe unlocks a vast of opportunity to make your own transformation occur. So like I said, challenging the requirement, what is actually required of a successful transformation? It's not going to the gym and sweating buckets. It's the capacity to achieve what I said before, the negative
Mhm.
energy balance. So if you understand that there's multiple avenues to make that happen, and in my opinion, and the one that I recommend for all the entrepreneurs that listen to the podcast, is leveraging the location independent approach. And step count is one of them. I would say that is the most effective. But again, if you just walk to the steps, that does not mean you're going to lose. You're going to make a
Mhm.
good transformation. So pair that with the right strategy, and there'll be an excellent transformation waiting for you. And it's a something that I think many individuals don't start because of that common perception that it's the gym based approach that only works. So with that, we will conclude the health and fitness conversation. I'll move the conversation to your next year plans with regard to CITO tax solution and anything else you want to plug in.
Yeah, so something I'm really excited about what we're doing currently right now is we're building out our website for, so we have CITOtax.com, but we're also building out unfairdivorce.com, because we are focusing on partnering with family law attorneys for people who are going through a divorce. And there's a program called Innocent Spouse Relief. So that's where one spouse has done everything wrong as far as finances and taxes, and the other spouse is innocent. And so we're going to be starting this program where we're partnering with numerous divorce attorneys, family law attorneys. And then about this time next year, I'm also going to be launching a book on how to do that estate plan for tax mitigation, asset protection, and generational wealth. And so that'll be a separate company, and we're really excited about that.
Amazing. And it was a pleasure having the podcast. But where can people keep up with you and more
Yeah.
with CITO tax solution?
So yeah, so go to our website, cetotax.com. Now, something I want to share with the audience, if you found any benefit in our conversation on cetotax.com, You can answer a scorecard. It's like 13 questions. It's going to give you some feedback as far as what's going on with your tax situation. And it'll give you an opportunity to schedule some time with me. But that feedback is going to let you know really what's going on and how it's impacting you emotionally. Because if you feel bad, about to your health, you're not going to work out. I mean, that's just
Sure.
how it goes for most people. And then in addition to that, you can find me on social media, CITO Tax. And also you can call me at 1-877 CITO Tax.
And one thing I have to say that's very important is it's incredibly important to understand specialized advice because you offer perspectives that many individuals would even consider on this
Mhm.
podcast. So what I'm saying is that if there's even an opportunity to understand from the point of view of someone who's specialized in what they do, you want that perspective because they understand the ins and outs. And it's very likely that you as an entrepreneur or business owner, you don't have that exact same specialized knowledge. So it's always excellent to get that alternative perspective can always give you a different avenue to handle what your current situation is. So, Fabian, it was a pleasure to get you on the podcast today. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. This is Aryan Mohindra and Fabian Cruz. Thank you for listening.